The third rule is called the scalar multiplication rule, which is to find the derivative of a function which is a cos c times this function. So in other words, which is c times f of x, then take the derivative, which is actually, you can bring out c, then take the derivative for this function. So in other words, you can take this c outside, right? Then take the multiply c by the derivative of this function f. So now let's look at the example. Y equals -3/2 times x. So we want to know what is the derivative of y about x, right? So this is the -3/2 times x, then take the derivative. So f and y are the same thing. So here, from this definition, we can bring out this constant, -3/2 out, then times the derivative of the rest part, which is x. So from the power rule, we know that it's equal to, the derivative of x equals 1. So it's equal to 1. So this is what would be -3/2. Another example, which is y equals 1/2 cube root of x squared. Okay, so for this problem, since we have some radical sign, so the first thing when we do the derivative, we need to transform this one into the power form. So now let's look at what is the power form. So this one is equal to 2 times x to the, what's the power? 2/3, right? But we need to bring it to the numerator. So this would be x to the -2/3 divided by 2, right? So if you write as a scalar multiplication, as a constant times the function, it's 1/2 times x to the -2/3. So if you have this form, you can use the scalar multiplication rule and the power rule to get your results, right? So the derivative is actually the derivative of 1/2 times x to the -2/3. Take the derivative. Let's bring out this 1/2, then take the derivative for the x to the -2/3, and we use the power rule. This would be 1/2 times. We bring down this power, which is -2/3, times x to the -2/3 what? Subtract 1. Then you will have, so we 1/2 times -2/3, which would be -1/3, right? Times what? X to the -5/3. So this would be your result. So you see, if we have these basic rules, we can do the calculation, find the derivative quickly. So now let's look at the fourth rule, which is called the sum and difference formula. So which says we want to find the derivative of the function f of x plus or minus function g. So it can be written as, what's that? This is the f plus or minus g. We want to take the derivative. It's equal to, we can take the derivative for x plus or minus the derivative for g. Right? if we write it as the prime form, it would be f prime plus or minus g prime. So that means you can distribute, if here the relation between two equations, two functions are the subtraction or the summation, then you can distribute this derivative for each one, right? Okay, so now let's look at a quick example. If you have what is the derivative of 3x squared plus 2 square root of x. So we need to, we can use this summation sum formula. So this is the derivative for 3x squared plus the derivative for 2 square root x, right? We take 3 out and times the derivative for the x squared. Plus we take 2 out times the derivative for the square root. So this step we use the scalar multiplication rule. Then we use the power rule, right? So this would be 3 times 2, we bring down 2, then subtract 1 on the new, for the new power. And plus 2 times, and we noted that this one is actually square root of x, is actually x to the 1/2, right? If we take the derivative for the x 1/2, x to the 1/2, we bring down 1/2, right, times x to the 1/2 minus 1. So this is 6x plus 2 times 1/2 equals 1, and times x to the negative 1/2. So this is your answer. Let's look at other rules about sine and cosine. So the derivative for the sine function, which is sine x prime, would be equal to cosine x. The derivative of the cosine x is equal to, if we use the prime form, this would be cosine prime, which is equal to negative sine x. So be careful, okay? It's negative sine x, not sine x. And 6, the exponential function, the derivative for this exponential function. So the derivative of the e to the x, right? So this is very special. It's equal to e to the x itself. A quick example. If f of x equals sine x minus 2 times e to the x, so what is the derivative? So the derivative is sine, take the derivative for sine minus, take the derivative for e to the x, 2 times e to the x. Right, so here we use the difference formula. And the sine, take the derivative, equals cosine x minus, we can bring out 2, then times the derivative of e to the x. And the derivative of e to the x equals e to the x. So it's cosine x minus 2 times e to the x. Another derivative special rule, which is the derivative for the natural log of x. Okay, so you don't need to know the formula for the general logarithmic function. You can just check the table in your textbook. It has the derivative for the logarithmic function. But here is a very special logarithmic function, which is called natural log. Natural log, which is what? The base is e, right? Natural log of x, which is the log base e of x. E is a very special constant, right? Which is 2.7, about 2.7. So this one is equal to 1/2, 1 over x. Okay. So these are the basic rules you need to memorize.